All right, I've got to start on time. Welcome, everyone. This is the Gorilla 10 scheduling and budgeting preview. We had a session this morning, and this is our second session. So we're going to go over some of the new features of Gorilla 10. We hope to release this next month, August of 2025. So let's get started. We've got about 30 minutes for this webinar, and then if there's any questions afterwards, I'll be happy to answer any questions about the new features or about Gorilla in general, scheduling in general, budgeting in general, anything at all that you'd like. Okay, so there are over a dozen new features. Now I say a dozen, but to be honest with you, it's more than that. New features and enhancements in Gorilla Studio 10. I'm going to go over the top 8. I'll touch upon a few of them as we go through them. The other ones that I'm not going to go through are small little enhancements and things of that nature. But I'm going to go over the 8 major enhancements and features in Gorilla Studio 10. So the very first one is a really cool one. It's called the third row strip board. So if you're familiar with the strip board, you have normally 2 rows, row A and row B is what we call it. And you can put in your set information there, of course, your location information, your page count and whatnot. And same, you could specify whether you want that information on row A or row B. We now have the option of adding a row C. So let's go into Gorilla and I'll show you how to access that row. So I'm going to launch a schedule and I'm going to click on the strip board. I'm going to go into the strip board. And if you're familiar with Gorilla, you of course be familiar with the strip board. This feature here is actually the split screen button right here, which we added in Gorilla 9. This is a really nice addition that we added. Allows you to split your strip board into 2. Or actually you have your strip board on your right and your breakdown sheets on your left. So you can actually create breakdown sheets and add elements such as props and wardrobe and set dressing and etc. and still look and see and navigate and scroll up and down and change scenes of the order of the scenes on your right. So that's a really cool feature we added in version 9. Now, I'm going to go back to the single view here. So the new feature is row C. So if I click on the stripboard print design button, which you can see right up here, this goes into a window where you can design the strips. There's a new checkbox here that says print row C. This was not here before. And there's another row here, a thin row, that we call now row C. So if I select print row C, it's going to add a third row to the strip board, and you can specify what data you want to be shown or displayed on that row. Now, I particularly specified IDs, which is the board IDs or the cast member IDs. And as you can see, this is as opposed to row A and B, which is divided into 12 sections, like A1, A2, A3, and you could see how you could put in a specific data field in any of these sections from A1 to A12 to B1 to B12. Row C is just one long row, so it's not divided. So it's really designed for a long string of characters, for example, IDs, which is a good one to do, or synopsis, and I'll show you how to do that right now. So right now I've got the IDs specified in row C. You can see down here where board ID is, and right here, this is a new column, and it says C. So if I close the stripboard design window, and you can see that if I scroll up to the top here, there's the row C. And it's just a simple row underneath the row A and row B, where you can now put another set of data. So right now, of course, I put IDs, but let's say you want to put synopsis, for example. We're going to go back into the stripboard print design window. And notice it says IDs here. That's a label, by the way. You can also add a label to row C. Okay, so in this particular instance, I put label. But let's say I want to take out the label. So I don't want to have the label there. And I want to be able to put synopsis on row C. So what you want to do is you want to go here to synopsis. It's check marked, which is you want it to be shown. And right now it's not showing on row A. So let's put it on row C. And if I close this, you can now see that row C now has the synopsis. So we move over this idyllic setting. And of course, synopsis is usually a little longer than, a couple than some of these columns here. So this is a really great way to, if you want to put in your entire synopsis here. Now I have short synopses here specifically because I know I don't have a lot of room here, but you can actually put a whole row of synopsis here. And if you do print the strip board, and I'll click on the print button up here and then select the board, the print will also show row C because I have row C specified. Okay. So let me close this up. Let's go back to Stripboard Print Design. And so again, it's done here in this window, Stripboard Print Design, where you can specify, and if you don't want row C at all, you just want to leave row A and row B, you could just deselect this. By default, it's not selected, okay? So if you do, as you can see here, if you do want a row C to your board, you do have to select print row C and then specify what it is that you want on that particular row. In this instance, I put in synopsis. Okay. It's also the reason why I show the split screen strip board. If I click on the split screen button, and it's also going to show here on the split screen. So you're going to see, strip 1, strip 2, strip 3, and of course, here's the synopsis right there. So this is a really nice feature if you wanted to add more data to your board. A lot of times people want to add, the whole synopsis or the IDs. You could put the location if you want in row C. Again, you could put anything you want in there. It's not, you don't have to have the synopsis in there. Okay, so that's the first feature, row C on the board. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. If you have any questions, by the way, please feel free to chat them in. So the second feature is delete multiple elements. And what this allows you to do is to delete multiple elements with one keystroke, basically, as opposed to deleting every element one at a time. So this is a really nice time saver. So if I go into the elements, let's close the board here and click on the elements button right up here. And now I'm showing all the elements, right? But if I wanted to, let's say, filter and show wardrobe, for example, and let's say I wanted to delete 3 of these, okay, like white sandals, pilgrim, these 3 right here. What I would have to do normally is click on the 3 dots, click delete, do it again, click on the 3 dots, click delete, do it again, click on, right? So if you only have a couple things to delete, it's really not a problem. But if you have really like 20 elements you want to delete, and this can happen because a lot of times when you import a screenplay, for example, from Final Draft or some other program, sometimes things will come in, elements will come in like gibberish. It does happen sometimes, right? With the XML format. So you might have to clean up your schedule and get rid of some elements that you don't need. So instead of doing one at a time, let me go ahead and turn that off. You can go under the, I think it's under elements, and there's an option here now that says delete multiple. Now delete found, that's going to delete everything that you see behind this pull-down menu in that list. But let's say you don't want to do that. You just want to delete a subset of those list of elements. So if I select delete multiple, what's going to happen here, and it's going to give you instructions right there. I'm going to click OK. You select a check, but now you see we're in delete mode, delete multiple elements mode, right? So select white sandals, pilgrim, and let's say white t-shirts, for example. So let's do a non-consecutive one, right? And I'm not going to do it now, but if I do click delete, they're all going to be gone. And then delete, and they're all gone. And that's, again, really nice if you want to be able to, let me go filter and show all, okay? You could do it here in the show all also. So if I wanted to, let's say, go to delete multiple elements here, now I'm looking at all the elements in my schedule. And I have these still selected here, but let's say I deselect them and I want to select that, I want to select that, I want to select that, and click delete, and they'll all be gone. Again, just a nice time saver, a nice thing to help you. And I can click cancel, of course, not to delete anything. Now, when you delete multiple elements, that is not an undoable, that is undoable. So you cannot undo that. Okay. If you delete, I'm going to cancel out of here. If you delete one at a time, uh, I delete this. Oh, this also cannot be undone either. I'm sorry. So it's the breakdown sheets that can be undone. That's the next feature I'm going to show you. Right. So anyway, the delete multiple elements is really helpful if you want to organize your elements in sort of a way where you delete more elements than just deleting them one at a time. Okay, I'm going to click cancel. I don't want to delete anything, but trust me, they will delete. Okay, I'm going to close that up. And let's go to the next feature here. So this is the one that I was talking about, right? Undo, delete breakdown sheet. So what this allows you to do is that if you do delete a breakdown sheet, now when you delete a breakdown sheet on the breakdown sheet screen, not only does it delete the breakdown sheet, it deletes all the scheduled elements. So if you have props and set dressing and costumes and cast members deleted, I'm sorry, on that breakdown sheet, it will remove them from that breakdown sheet. It doesn't remove them from the database, but it removes them from that sheet. Okay, so let me go ahead, and this will actually do a sample. So I'm going to go to breakdown sheets. And let's say I'm going to go to scene, let's see here. Scene 6 is fine, right? Let's go to scene 6. And you can see I've got these elements here attached to scene 6. If I were to delete this breakdown sheet, now you can do this by either selecting breakdown delete or by selecting the X button down here. It doesn't really matter. It does the exact same thing. So if I delete this breakdown sheet, it's going to give you a warning. You're going to delete scene 6. I'm going to click delete. And it's gone. And if I'm going to click on scene 5, and it's there, and scene 7 is right there, so you can see that scene 6 is no longer here, right? There is now an undo button up here. This wasn't here before. There's also an undo if you go, I believe, to breakdown undo, right here, last deleted breakdown sheet. That does the same exact thing. Okay, so if I select undo, you're going to get a dialog box that says you're restoring a breakdown sheet record, and it happens to be scene 6, right? So because it only restores, of course, the last one that you deleted. So breakdown sheet number 6 has been added. You can see it came back with all the screenplay display, with all the elements scheduled. But it does say if this scene was on the strip board, you need to add it to the board because it removed it from the strip board. So that's not really a problem. You can see here it says scene not on the default board. It was before we deleted it, right? There are two ways to add it to the board if you want to add it to the board. You can either go to, I think over here is a breakdown, and right here, push breakdown sheet to strip board. That will push this breakdown sheet to the bottom of the board. Or what you can do, let's go back to strip board. You can do it from the strip board also. What you can do here is you select this button right here, which basically says add scene. And here it is. It's pretty easy to see because it'll show you all the scenes from the schedule that are not on the board. The gray ones are already on the board. So it's nice to see the visual. So if I click on scene 6, it's going to, you have to go to the bottom. Here's scene 6, that was the one. And then you could drag it back up. I don't remember exactly where it was. Let's say it was before scene 7, and save the board. So that's a nice feature too. So in case you delete a breakdown sheet and you realize you made a mistake and don't want to delete the breakdown sheet, you want to undo it, you can then undo that feature. Undo that delete, sorry. Okay. Number 4, this is a budgeting feature, and this is actually quite useful. Increase budget by a percentage. Now, we always had a contingency. You could add a contingency to a budget. You could add a flat fee to the budget as a total, as another line at the end of the budget. But this feature, what this does is it increases the budget lines individually by a particular percentage. And I'll show you how that's different. So let's go into the manager here and select a budget. And I'm in a top sheet now of a particular budget. I can create a contingency, which is basically a 10% let's say, sub addition to this particular budget, or a flat fee of, let's say, $10,000 or $20,000 or whatever you want, that you could always do. But this new feature, and you can access it by going to Setup, Manage Sections. What this allows you to do, this button is new, increase, decrease. This allows you to increase or decrease every single line item by a particular percentage. So it doesn't just add a lump sum to the budget, okay? This actually, smudges your budget a bit, right? It actually moves the line items up or down in terms of dollar amount or whatever currency you're using. So let's say I want to select all of the sections to increase or decrease, but we're going to do increase. And let's say we want to do 10%, right? So this is now 163 and change. If I select the increase button, what this is going, again, this cannot be undone. So make sure you save your budget before you do this if you want to play with increasing or decreasing your budget for, purpose, for whatever purpose that you want to do it, right? And you can see that down here it says 180. Notice there's no contingency, there's no lump sum that's been added of a 10%. It went through each one of these line items into the detail level and upped the rates 10% to each and every one. So it's a really, if you want to say sneaky way, in accounting, you could say, let's move everything up a couple percent. No one will notice, right? Or bring it down. Same thing. Now, the nice thing about this also is that you can do the same thing with just a particular section. I did it to all the sections, but let's say I want to increase the total pre-production 5%, okay, instead of, and not touch the other ones. I can click this button here, the three dots, click on this is another way, it just takes you to the same screen, the plus minus button, right? And then click in increase, decrease, the same screen we were in. But this time, if I just select pre-production, right, turn these off, and let's say 5%, okay? And then click on increase. This is only going to increase the pre-production section 5%. Now, the other feature that we had was add-ons to a section. Now, this is a feature that is similar to adding a lump sum to the particular section. So if I select add-ons, you can do an add-on. So let's say I select add-on and I want to do a $500, so it just increases by $500. I could literally say flat fee. I could say increase by $500, and it will create a new line, an add-on line for $500. But that's a lump sum, okay? It doesn't go through the rates and increases them 5% or decreases them 5%, okay? Hopefully I'll just cancel that out. Good. So that is that feature. Really nice feature to increase or decrease the budget, to be able to play around with the budget a bit, right? Since we're in budgeting, it's another budgeting feature here. This is multiple line actions for the account level. Now, we did add in Gorilla Studio 9 multiple line actions for the detail level. We now took it a step further and we added it to the account level. And I'm going to show you that exactly what that means. So if I go into, let's go to the detail level. Let's see if I go into production staff and then production manager. Now, I only have one line item here, but let's say I had another one. I'm going to just call this second production manager, right? And let's just do one more. I know there really isn't usually well, maybe there is, I don't know, third UPM. Okay. So I now have 3 line items here on the detail level. If I wanted, what we added in version 9 was this checkbox here, which basically means whatever if I select it, notice what happens. Boom, select action button comes up, which means whatever I do now to the select action will affect all line items that I have clicked. All right. So if I select action, you can see if I wanted to change the currency, add, remove fringe, it will do this action to all the line items that are checked. If I want to add a global, if I want to replace, in other words, see this rate right here is 0. I don't have your rates here. So let's say I want to replace the rate, and I want to replace the rate with 1,000 and replace rate, right? And I did all of them right there, which is really cool, okay? instead of going through each one and adding 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. Same thing with, I think, units. You could do units, right? Can I do units? Or I know I could do uh, globals, right, I could do globals. So add or remove a global here, and I could do the X and the amount. Okay. So that's really cool. So we added that. Let me clear these out in Gorilla 9. So what we did now in Gorilla 10, we just took it a step further and said, well, why not add it to the account level? This is the account level. This is the mid level of the budget, right? Remember, if we go back to the top sheet, we've got three levels of the budget. We've got our top sheet. We have our, go in here again, the orange level, which we just color coded orange, which is the account level, and then the detail level, which is the green level where you add all the rates. So all we did is we added a little select action option also in account. So let's say you wanted to move all three of them or just two of them. Let's say there was 20 of them here, right? You said, oh, darn, this is not the right account. I want to move all these. I want to keep the subtotals. I want to move them all to another account. Normally, you would have to go through here and say move or copy, which is, of course, a nice feature. But now what you can do is select whatever you want, select action, say move copy accounts, and then you could move or copy the accounts to another account level. Okay, so that's that feature. Let's go back to the top sheet here. Let's see what the next one is, either probably a scheduling feature, but let's see. Okay, accrual deal memo. This is one of my favorites. We actually have been receiving this request for I don't know how long I can remember. Back in when we did Gorilla 3 or 4, I remember this request. Crew deal memo. You can now print and edit a crew deal memo. That's a tongue twister, isn't it? For any crew member. Okay, and I'm going to show you with using our template. Of course, you can modify that template. So let's go ahead into the scheduling module. And of course, you have to create some crew. And I've got some crew in my sample schedule. So I'm going to click the crew budget, crew module right here. And you can see I've got lots of crew members here. And two things I'm going to show you before I show you the actual memo. This is a new button right here, contract. You see that little button next to each one of these names. And also, if I click on the three dots here and click on info, and actually, let me go to I think I want to go to this one. One of them, I have all the info there. I forget which one. Maybe it's this one. We'll see. This is a new tab right here called contract. If I click on it, yeah, I have info filled out here. So all this information here is brand new pertaining to the crew deal memo. So right here, you could put in your social security number. I mean, this is again for a contract. So it's warranted to put in the social security number for the contract of the person, a tax ID number if you want there. And by the way, I know you can't see that right there. It says tax ID in gray, it's grayed out, right? But if you enter it, right? And then if you want to put the dollar amount of the contract for this particular crew member, you want to be able to put the rate here. And you could use either a daily rate or a weekly rate. It doesn't really matter. You just have to decide what you do. Let's say we put, let me see, 2,500 is the weekly rate, right? You just have to specify here where it says use rate for contract, either per day or per week. So if I want to do per week, you make sure that you select per week. If you want to do per day, make sure you select per day and you have a value entered right here. You also want to make sure you have your address here and a contact and an email or a phone number, what have you, right? And then what currency you want the contract to be in. By default, I think it's US dollar, right? So if I close this up and now I click on this contract button, you're going to see that a crew deal memo contract appears. And you've got all the information up here in the header. You've got this agreement is made, as of date of agreement by and between the production company, whatever your production company is, right? And you put that in your production company header, right? In the logo. Let's see, if I click on here, does it do it? No, but that would be cool if you do that. We might be able to do that so you could quickly access the header information. To do that, you have to go back to manager. So let's see if we can edit that. But anyway, all this information here, and you could scroll down and look at it, and you can edit what information you want. So if you want to click on no authority, and this is just a standard crew template that you can use for film, and I want to modify this, I can sit here and modify that, and then click on the update button, right? The Also, let me show you this up here. The edit button right there is another way to access each one of these paragraphs. The special instructions tab or number is special instructions specifically for this crew member. So this is a global template for the entire schedule. So if you change one section like services or whatever, it changes it for all of them. But this special instructions section is only for the crew member that you are specifying. So this could be unique for each and every crew member. So if you have something unique you want to specify for that particular crew member that does not pertain to any other crew member, this is the place to put it in special instructions. So once you do, you can also hide a section. So let's say we don't want to see, for whatever reasons, publicity, you could just click on hide, and that will literally hide it. It will not print it when you do the printing, okay? You could do the same thing with any one of these options here. And if you click on print, close that up, click on print, it's going to compile it, and you can go ahead and print. There's the weekly rate right there, and you could scroll through it up here just to check it, to see what it looks like. We have the initial, each contract should have initials of employee, so they could initial the employee for every single page. And then the last page, of course, is the signature page. So this is really kind of a nice jumping off place that you can start creating crew deal memos if you want to do that. And you can modify them if you want to your heart's desire. So that's really cool. Okay, again, requested for a very, very long time. Crew deal memo. Tag element globally. This is one of my favorites. When you tag an element in the screenplay display, which we added, I think I don't remember what it was, maybe it was Gorilla 8. Normally it tags it just for that particular scene, right? But now we added the option to tag it globally in your entire schedule. So I'm going to show you an example of that. I actually have an example I'm going to use in scene 5, 10, and 12, white wine. I got to remember that. So let's go back to the schedule, and let me go to scene 5. And if you look at scene 5, you can see in the screenplay. Now, tag element globally works only for screenplay display, okay? It doesn't work if you use up here, if you want to select a prop over here and add white wine, it's only going to add it to this particular scene. But if you see it in the display of the screenplay, you could tag it globally. So if it appears again in another scene in the screenplay, it will be tagged. So let me just, before I actually tag it, notice it's not tagged here. Scheduled elements for scene, you do not see white wine. So I said 5, 10, and 12, right? So let me go to scene 10. And here's white wine right there. If you could see that, not tagged, right? Not tagged, not tagged. And scene 12, white wine. Here it is again, white wine. Again, not tagged because it's not up here, okay? So if I go to scene 5, and let's go ahead and highlight white wine, and I'm going to tap the space bar to bring up my tagging window, and it's going to say, okay, here we go, highlight text white wine. Now, if I just select the tag button, which is what we had before, that's fine. It will tag it only in this particular scene. But if I select tag element globally, what it's going to do, first it's going to ask you where do you want to locate it, right? Now I just have it, I already showed you scene 5, 10, and scene 12. It was only in the action. So it's fine, not going to find it anywhere else, so that's fine. So if I click on tag element globally, it's going to go through the entire schedule, and here we go. There were 3 items tagged white wine. So let me click OK. You can see white wine there is tagged. If I go to scene 10, there it is, white wine right there. And scene 12, white wine right there. Okay. Now in the screenplay display, it's not going to be tagged because you have to hit refresh. I have refresh tags off but you could select refresh tags and it just kind of goes through and does that. But if you, there's an option to turn refresh tags on so that it will, every time you go to a scene, it refreshes the tags. But I have it turned off just for speed, right? But it is tagged. It doesn't matter, excuse me, if it's tagged here. It matters if it's tagged here. Okay. So that's really the most important thing up there. So really, really nice feature, tag element globally, tagging everything in your entire schedule with that word, with that phrase, whatever it is that you want in a tag. All right. Okay, let's see. Now the last new feature is called export fringes and globals. And what this allows you to do is to export all your fringes or your globals to a Excel file or a tab separated text file. So basically what it does is it takes the report, because we did have a report, and we still do, of course, that allows you to, let me go into the manager here and go into the budget. We do have a report that allows you to print the fringes and the globals. Well, it's two different reports, right? So let's say, we want to select fringes, and here's the report. That's a fringe report, right? But now, and this was again another requested feature, if you click on the print button and to get to the exporting area, you want to go here to more reports. Down here is where you select the Excel button. And these three are new right here: fringes, percentages, globals, and fringes flat rates. Click on export, and you can then export these to a tab separated text file or an Excel file or what have you. Okay. And if, by the way, I went through a lot of these really fast, you're like, where do I find that feature? How do I get to the print C strip board? How do I get to the tag element globally? Really, really nice thing that we added every time we release a new feature is if you go to the project manager and if you select on the gear button down here in the bottom right, what's new, and this pops up every time you turn the program on, unless of course you turn it off. And of course you could turn it off by selecting right over here. But immediately you will see all of the new features of that particular version. So here we go, third row strip board, which is the first feature that I showed you. And then if you click on the info button, it'll tell you how, at least a quick description of how to get to that third row. So you could print that third row. Same with tag element globally, for example. Here we go. See, it shows you go ahead and tag your element and select this button to tag your element globally. So you can very quickly see all the new features here. And if you select on other new features, not to dismiss these, because these are fantastic features that we added in version 9 and even in version 8, still really cool features that you won't see in other programs, like our production checklist, our language feature. You could now see Gorilla in French or Spanish or German. Your automated estimated time to breakdown sheets, that could be automated. The split screen strip board, I showed you that one. Adding time to banners, import a PDF screenplay. Very, very huge feature we could do now in Gorilla. So really, really some cool features here. Okay, so that's the bulk of the new features for Gorilla Studio 10. Again, we're going to release this hopefully within a month or so, if all goes well. And this is a free update to anyone that has Gorilla 7, 8, or 9. 7, 8, or 9. If you have any of those versions, this is a free update. If you have Gorilla 7 or 8, you've got to contact us to get a new key, a new activation key. But if you have a Gorilla 8, Gorilla 9 key, it will work in Gorilla 10. Okay? So I'm going to open it up now. I believe we're up into Q&A. Perfect. So if any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about Gorilla or scheduling or budgeting in general, or any version. How is the tagging function different in Gorilla than in Final Draft? It's similar. It is similar. In Final Draft, you highlight a text or a phrase and tag it to an element, category like props and set dressing. You can do, I think the thing is we have more features in Gorilla, like element linking. So for example, if you wanted to, I don't think Final Draft has that. So if you wanted to link a few elements together, so for example, see this link button right here, and I've got Barney's linked to a couple other elements. right? So you could link Barney to a top hat or plunger or overalls or a shirt. And then when you click on Barney to add Barney to a particular scene, all those elements will be added to that particular scene. You could do multiple linkings, groups, which is really cool. So if you have Barney dressed up in a tuxedo, you could have that set, or then you have Barney dressed up as a plumber. You have that set, right? So a lot of features about tagging here that are a little bit more detailed than it is in Final Draft. Final Draft is a great way to start your tagging if you want to do that, but you have more features here in Gorilla when it comes to tagging. Well, the thing is, you really can't do all your tagging in Final. I mean, you can if you want in Final Draft. The thing is, with Final Draft, you tag on the screenplay only. So if you go to a scene, and here you can see these color codes right here, but look up here. I have pilgrim shoes with brass buckles. So that's not in the scene, but it needs to be, for whatever reason, needs to be tagged, right? So this was tagged by not by selecting an item in the screenplay display and highlighting it and tagging it. It was tagged by clicking on wardrobe and then adding something here. So if I wanted to add, let's say, red boots, right? That's not in the screenplay, right? But this character, for example, needs to have red boots, and it's not in the screenplay. Notice that red boots is now added to the scene, but red boots is not in the display. Most likely, 90% of what you tag is not going to be in the display, right? So tagging in Final Draft is nice when you see something in the display that you want to tag. But if you see something, if you know that you need red boots in a scene and it's not specified in the screenplay that a character wears red boots, but you know as a writer, director, production manager, whatever, costume designer, that that character needs red boots, you do that here. Okay. So you go through, and then of course you could say, well, I want Barney or Chubby, for example, or Luigi to always have red boots. You can then go into the elements, for example, and I'll do that right now. It's a really good feature. Go into filter, let's do cast members. Let's do Luigi. Okay. Oh, that's Sophia, sorry. All right, Sophia. Let's say Sophia has red boots. And then go to linked, and we have a video on it. And let's say we want Sophia group is fine, to have red boots, right? So I'm going to go to wardrobe. Is it wardrobe or costumes? Wardrobe, right? And red boots. There we go. So now notice that I created a group called Sophia Group. Now I could call this Sophia Red Boots or Sophia Cowboy or Cowgirl if I want, right? Which I should, because I can do another group that says Sophia Fancy Schmancy Dress and then add, Cinderella shoes to that. You see what I'm saying? So let's say Sophia now has red boots. So now if I go to a scene that Sophia is not in, let me find this. Okay, here's a scene. Sophia, as you can see up here, Sophia is not in the scene, but let's say she is in this scene, right? And I click on cast members and go to Sophia. Notice that there's a little link right there. So if I click Sophia right there and close that little button, little window there, notice that Sophia was added to the scene as she should, but red boots was also added. Now, I just linked one element to Sophia. I could do red boots. I could do a pink cowboy hat. I can do, I'm using colors, green belts. I can, whatever I want, so that it makes tagging a lot easier if we always need Sophia in this scene as a cowgirl. Okay, this is the kind of thing that you do in Gorilla as opposed to Final Draft. Okay, one example that helps you schedule your particular scenes, right? Okay, it's a long answer to a short question, but I hope that helps. But it's a good question. See, things like that you should ask me for sure. You're welcome, because a lot of these things are tips and tricks that will really help the scheduling. Help you schedule. You know. Okay, well, great. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for, oh, thank you for the excellent presentation on the new features. Been using Jungle since Chimpanzee 2. Wonderful. Well, I certainly hope you can move over to Gorilla. We're not really supporting Chimpanzee anymore. We've really concentrated everything on Gorilla. So hopefully you can jump into Gorilla if you haven't already. But also check out the version 9 features and version 8 features because those are really, really, really cool. And we have videos on all of those. If you go to the manager button and again to the gear button and select what's new, right here in the starter videos, you're going to see some really cool intro to version 8. Even though this is version 10, you're going to see some new features. Well, here, this is the one you want to see. Studio 8 new features and Studio 9 new features is going to be completely different than Studio 10 new features. So don't, if you're not familiar with Gorilla Studio 8 or 9, you want to watch those also if you get Gorilla, because those are going to show you some really cool features that, of course, are very helpful. Okay. Okay, guys, I think that's it, right? Don't want to rush anybody off. I just want to make sure that I answered everybody's questions. Okay, I think we're good. So everybody, thank you very much. And uh, like I said, it's coming out in about a month. And if you need any assistance getting it or getting it activated, let us know immediately, and we'll help you with that. Thanks a lot, guys.